constituency P140 Segaman. Okay, that is in fact my my village this way.
Just a second, just so that we are all on the same page, and especially for our international observer. So this is a depiction of the houses in a place called Kampung Abdullah.
Correct.
And this, and for 6 decades, as you say, all of this was one constituency.
Yeah, no constituency. It's a community called Kampung Abdullah.
Okay, so one community.
Correct. It has been actually part of the P. Okay, so here I extracted you. Can you move on to the next slide? Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So here I extracted the voters of one sample household residing on 278B Kampung Abdullah, which actually Dr. Wong has mentioned earlier. In fact, it's actually, okay, which is probably the closest representative of the so-called Kampung Abdullah now. In the last general election, GE13, this is the result. You can see PKR, the opposition party, actually garnered 86.5% of the votes. Traditionally, this committee has been very 140. In GE13, we identified 3,008 voters, okay, in that location, of which 1,838 still remain as the voters of Segamat, and 1,170 has been transferred out in the very arbitrary manner, as I shown on the map: Botan, Jalan Abdullah, Taman Mewah, Jalan Durian, and this worked out to be about 1,224 voters being transferred into P141 Segijang. Okay. Next slide. Yeah. Now, so let's visit.
When you mean transfer, actually assigned would be the correct word there, because they were originally. Sorry, if you go back to the earlier, the next earlier one. No. Yeah. No, yeah. Okay. The one after this.
This with the following two facts. So the first one is what I have shown earlier, the loss to the PK and Kampung Abdullah, okay, due to this transfer of the 1170, and then if we apply the 86.5% performance of PKR at that time, so that worked out to be 1012 votes, right? And then the second fact is this: there are other areas that we have also detected this similar kind of transfer, and they're also shown in shrunk to a smaller area. And 141 actually doesn't entirely take the whole whatever area in the previous 125, but it also covers other areas from other constituencies.
But to me, that's quite crucial, because if it was just a major split, then it should not have affected. In fact, it would have given PKR 2 constituencies to win, since it had as much as 86%. Right. It's only when the redrawing includes other areas that you can have a situation where the BN can win with as much as more than 80%.
Right. Yeah.
And therefore, the redrawing of the boundaries is
taken to basically Felda area.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes, correct.
Now, from your personal knowledge, you may or may not know, just clarify, Felda voters, the opposition, they had restricted access to Felda voters or unrestricted access?
We have read on the news reports, all these numerous.
Restricted or unrestricted access?
Very restricted.
Very restricted. And these are known to be, you say here, traditionally strong Barisan national supporters.
Yes, correct.
So this is how the seat was split, took these people who are traditionally opposition voters, combined it with the Felda settlers, new Felda community, and there was this narrow loss by the opposition candidate. Is that correct?
Yes.
Maybe that assists a bit.
Yeah. So it's a combination of two factors. First,
Yes.
the redrawing of the boundaries, and I think that this particular plan does not show that.
Yes.
But it needs to show that that's how they were able to combine and dilute the PKR supporters by moving them to another area where they joined up with a different constituency where there was it was a BN stronghold.
Yes, precisely.
And
yeah.
then this is a different one where within the families you have
Yes.
people.
As a whole, it was not really a opposition seat. Okay. Now, if we want to really go on a speculation that this is diluting the opposition votes, it's not really diluting the whole seat of P125, but it's a targeted dilution. Looking at the specific, very strong pro-opposition areas, like Kampong Abdullah and some of the, some of those jalans, a lot of them are actually in the town center. And we all know urban voters are generally more pro-opposition. But now then involve the so-called the Malay heartland villages, which are also part of the Segamat. Right? So why is it happen only just that? So it tells, okay, they want to maybe to consolidate the whole on that P125 originally. So brought out some of the opposition votes and dilute it into the 141. So you kill two birds with one stone, by doing this delineation exercise.
But this sounds that it requires quite a manipulative mind and a very detailed, inquiry into that area, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
to do this,
Yeah, it does. I think it kind of falls in quite squarely into the thesis that Dr. Wong presented, which is that this first past the post system actually allows you to select.
Citizens take on the role to check on the electoral roll, involving thousands of records, going through this kind of elaborate exercise like what we did. In fact, even for us, we can only do one village, our own village, which we are very familiar with, and went through 3,008 records, right? You imagine how you're going to go through 30,000, 40,000, and then come up with this kind of very concrete, very clear-cut manipulation or so-called irregular kind of assignments of voters, right? And we did this also mainly after the GE13, because I myself at the time volunteered as a Pajab manager for P140, and I have a group of very passionate volunteers. Most of them are not party members or anything, but we went through the whole process of the polling, and we started to ask questions. Why are there so many people from one single location, had to come and check with us precisely are they voting for P140 or P141? Same location, right? So we started to feel something is amiss, seriously. So we took on this, compile from the electorate roll, do the sorting, merging, and so on, from two different constituencies, P140 and 141. If you just take the electoral roll of one constituency, nothing you can identify. But if you take two, and then basically match all.
Coming from this panel would be quite crucial for the democratic process, the future democratic process in this country. It's a kind of a awakening, a Malaysian spring. And on that point, our next witness will talk a little about that. And perhaps, are there any other questions? Yes.
Mr. Ong, if you draw the line, boundary line for P140 and P141, what shape of what kind of, the shape of this constituency? Maybe snake or what kind of snake? I mean, I'm going to, if you are right,
Yeah.
this will be, I think, the worst, worse than gerrymandering in the United States of America. I
Yeah.
would say. Can you draw the line? I mean, what kind of?
Like Dr. Wong has said, you have to find the line to split the bed. This is husband and wife, exactly which point and so on. How are you going to do that?
Yeah.
I think it won't be it won't be a snake, but it'll be a snake in about 4 pieces, the same snake.
Yeah.
I'm sure this village will enter into many textbooks
Textbook, yes, exactly.
on the electoral system.
Yes. I think it will enter into that, and and also I teach in the university. I think it'll also go into family law as well, subject.
Maybe I just say, even on the practical issue, if I were a candidate,
I intended to call Nurul, Puan Nurul, but before that, there's a very short testimony and the person has some other assignments. So I call Mr. Tian Chua. This is SD 67.
Mr. Tian Chua, do you confirm your testimony to the tribunal today shall be the truth?
Yes, shall be the truth, nothing but the truth. Yeah, shall be the truth and nothing but the truth.
Yes. Shall be the truth. And you know, we always say that in court we say the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. But the whole truth is the truth, and nothing but the truth is also the truth. So I don't know why we have to repeat it 3 times. Yes, Mr. Tian Chua, if you look at page 2, this bears a signature. Is that your signature?
Yes.
And this is your statutory declaration?
Yes, it is mine.
Yes. And for the record, the name...
Then I appealed to the High Courts, and High Courts make a decision that to reduce the fine to 2,000 and to strike off the imprisonment charge. The judge explicitly make a decision that the offences that I have committed should not disqualify me as a member of parliament, and should not let me in prison, and should not have a by-election to waste public money.
So at that time, you were a member of parliament?
Yes.
I
I was elected at that time in 2008.
And 8,
So
okay.
on 2010 I was sentenced.
Yes. So just for the information of our panel, you can be disqualified if you have a fine of a particular amount or an imprisonment term, then you are automatically disqualified from becoming a member of parliament. So this is what he's referring to. During his existing term, he was fined $2,000. Now the judge made it very clear that he was reducing the fine.
Yeah.
Because-
in order to avoid a by-election, and he also of the opinion that I should not be disqualified
Yes.
from.
Commission.
Yes.
And for your honors, for our international panel, the letter is translated in the following page, in the following document. Right, so they wrote and said that it was their view, if you look at paragraph 5, can you read paragraph 5 for the benefit of the panel?
From the letter.
I think you read it from the English
From the English.
translation.
The
yes.
High Court is in its judgment stressed that a fine of 2,000 ringgit Malaysia did not disqualify our client from membership of parliament. The High Court was also of the view that a proper interpretation of Article 48 bracket 1E of the Federal Constitution was that to disqualify a person from memberships of parliament, that person must be fined a sum of more than 2,000 ringgit Malaysia, i.e. 2,001 ringgit and above. A copy of High Court judgment is enclosed to the EC.
Okay, and then if you look over leaf, could you read paragraph 8 as well?
The paragraph 8.
For the benefit of our international panel.
Okay. It means that in spite of what they say on the paragraph 3, which is I'm qualified for the election, the fight whether I will be accepted to that means that the client
Yes.
will be accepted to contest. It will only be decided on the day of nomination, where I must fulfill all conditions according to the federal constitution.
Yes.
Yeah,
Sorry. So, in other words, what they are saying here is that it will depend upon their officers when you present your nomination papers to stand for election.
Yeah, and in addition to paragraph 3, where, should I translate as well? The paragraph 3 is, according to the interpretation of the judgment, the Election Commission is of the view that they will uphold the decision of the High Court.
Yes.
So this is an addition. It means that because beside I'm constitutionally eligible, but I must also be correctly filling my forms. I will have to pass through whether I have.
And he filed an election petition.
Yes.
Named in the election petition was not only you, but as well the Election Commission.
Yes.
Yes. Now, you say here in your affidavit, in your statutory declaration, all right, and you have given the details at paragraph 5. Thereafter, on 11/6/2013, the BN's unsuccessful candidate Dominic Lau filed an election petition against me and the EC, Election Commission, in the High Court of Malaya at Kuala Lumpur, because the EC declared you as a winner, so they cited them. On 9 July, during the case management hearing of the election petition, the said Dominic Lau claimed that the $2,000 fine imposed by the High Court in June 2010 on me meant that I should be disqualified from contesting at GE13, and therefore he should have been elected. Now, paragraph 6, you said, much to my disappointment, not just disappointment, but dismay as well. Can you tell us in your own words, what was your disappointment?
Well, it is also rather odd that the Election Commission, after affirming me that I'm qualified, and then the returning officer accepted my nomination paper.
Your candidature, you're winning the seat, huh?
Yeah, this is, well, also from many other petitions.
No,
We
never mind,
have
we just
seen-
talk.
Yeah,
talk
we
about
have
this.
seen that the election commissions are clearly siding with the ruling parties.
Right. I have no further questions, and I invite.
The petition.
Yes, so this petition was heard, and
Well,
then what happened to the petition?
The petitions was struck out by the judge based on technicality, on a very technicality that has been used on any other tradition, which is the person who filed the petition is not the what's it called? Not the contester himself, but someone he appointed, which is the law firm. So this is very odd. It only happened this year. It just said that the petition has to be filed by the candidate himself. So only based on that technicality, the petition has been struck out. But now the my opponent is appealing in the federal court. So the federal court will still hear this, and the election commission will still have to present their stand to the federal court. Affirmatively, the positions of the voters.
Okay.
So to disqualify me and to declare the other sides as a victors just based on my disqualification is clearly undemocratic and against the will of the electorate.
You mean that is what the judge gave as his grounds?
No, the judge didn't base on that ground. The judge just purely based on
the
it was
technicality.
not filed by the candidate himself. It should be
By the law firm, yeah.
What you're saying is the candidate must file the papers in his name. Is that it?
that is what the judge
Because
believe
you know, at the bottom normally the petition is filed by a
by the
lawyer's
law firm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's right, yeah. But just to, I'm obliged to state that your lawyer took this objection as well, did you
Yes.
not? Yes.
Yes.
Don't you think that's a bit, that
Well-
goes against free and fair elections?
I think the lawyers took it because it was 2 days after the same judgment was delivered to dismiss all the petition that filed by the oppositions. So the
So it was.
yes.
And one of the provisions say that states should ensure that while complaints relating to the electoral process are determined promptly and effectively by an independent and impartial authority such as, for example, the courts.
Yes.
Yeah. So taking technical objections to prevent the grievance from being articulated really violates this concept of free and fair elections, does it not, in your view?
I think yes. I think our election court has been very difficult, and it doesn't take a broad views on the merits of the case. We have seen all these years that election petitions was never the avenue for us to air our grievances, because the court has adopted an attitude that they will dismiss cases just based on technicality.
But the point I'm making is that you yourself, your lawyers, took that objection, that technical objection.
Yeah, I think that wasn't the main.
I know, but
main
you took
objection. that was included as one of our objection.
So the point I'm making is that perhaps an advanced voter showing you the fact that the indelible ink was not working.
Yes.
And this was a military personnel
Yes.
who showed you the fact that a couple of days before the actual polling day.
Yeah.
Now, did you bring this to the attention? Was this brought to the attention of the EC, or was it publicized?
Yes. Actually, on the day of advanced voting, which is 5 days before the actual election date, I visited the polling station inside the military camp. After I came out, I received a phone call from a military. That's your duty to ensure that the abuses do not continue. So that was not done. And the EC also took another 2 days to meet us.
And they did not do anything following on the meeting after the 2 days. They just said
Well,
the isolated case.
There was a Friday before I think 2 days before the votings, I and a few other representatives went to Putrajaya to meet up with the EC. A few of the EC's representatives met us. They assure us that this is isolated case, and the votings on Sunday, the ink would not be will not be able to wash off. And we requested, in fact we insisted that to demonstrate to us with the ink immediately. He refused. They refused. They said that they have demonstrated to the press a day before. Everything has been conclusively decided, and the ink is indelible, and it will not be washed off. And whatever happened in the camp that I found out was probably due to those not being be tally with the actual voting roll, because the advanced voting roll, we have to go and dig it out ourselves. They did not provide us directly.
A separate role, you mean?
A separate roll.
Yeah.
So, so these advanced voters is not known to us when we receive the electoral, what's that called, the
Electoral
main
roll.
electoral roll, we have to go back to our what we call the polling agent, who attend the briefing on a few days before, and they were given a set of advanced voting roll. But then there was no, what is that called? There's no verification whether these people actually have voted. So that's why we want to know, why is it this advanced voters' name continue to exist in the main voting list, where on the 5th of May, they will be technically qualified to come back to vote.
Just a second, this is a very important point. We take it slowly. So you had an advanced voter roll.
Her duty, she finished at 2 o'clock. She went into the voting station and she voted.
So,
So actually she has a piece of paper, advanced vote with her, but she also went in to vote, and she only exercised it once. The other piece of paper, she didn't throw it back.
and you do not know how many of these kind of cases
We
it
have no
exists.
way to verify.
And the ink can be washed off.
In fact, in our dialogue before the election, we insist that the election commission update it online, so that all polling agents would know these are the people who has received their advance ballot paper, and therefore when they appear, our polling agent could say that these guys are double voting. The election commission said they have no records of such. Your polling agent has marked it off, and your polling agent must be responsible to make sure that they don't come back to vote.
Yes, I have no further questions. Now I
So the
invite-
advanced voters have the option of voting in advance or on the
They
day
have
of,
option of voting in advance or on that day or both times. That is the point that's being made by
yes,
the
no, I
Well,
understand.
in law, they should, once they take the advance voting,
it off.
yeah,
He can show that he has not been inked and he'll be allowed to vote.
yeah.
Sorry, in respect of that election agent, right, that person who
Yeah.
had this, I thought if they are election officers, they have the postal vote.
Yes, that's right.
And the postal vote, they have a notation that we saw yesterday, one, a PP.
Yes.
right, against the name.
Yes.
So,
But the PP, as we noticed,
not
was
necessarily then crossed out, but just put a PP, because it could be for overseas or local, right?
that's right.
It is only the advanced voters that actually go through the process of voting, but on a
Physically.
date, right?
Yes.
So why
The
do they have
PP
to-
voters are not indicated on our main list.
No, but yesterday we were.
Yes,
looked-
but if
Yeah.
you notice, it was in handwriting, PP.
Yeah.
I know.
So it is handwriting.
the
So
our election
one
workers-
One second. So the PP, and then you clarify
Yeah,
after this,
okay.
you help us. So it says in handwriting PP, but it does not appear in the electoral roll that is given to political parties.
Yeah.
That is
So-
the point.
So we have to go back to our election agency, to agents, to find out each of these, and we have to make the mark, right? So, it also means that even if our agent make a mark at this,
Region that has got to keep
Go and
track
mark
of
it,
this.
yeah.
Is that it?
yes, that's right.
Is that the law?
That's not the law. The obligation is on the EC to update periodically and so on and so forth, and not to throw it on
Yes.
260,000 polling agents. And the point of the matter is, most of the times, depends how vigilant. Even the PACHA, the independent observers who are not allowed in, there's only about 3,000 of them, and that's a lot. But here we're talking about 260,000. So, like we said, there is something quite fundamental that causes some grave anxiety in this whole process.
But nobody has come on the open to say I've voted twice. From what you're sharing, is that person prepared to come out? Because that would be the proof we need.
Well, we have a lot of evidence of people name appear twice, but for people to come out to say that they have voted twice is an offense, and they will definitely be persecuted. So that is become so unless you have a royal inquiries and their protected witness is protected to ensure their immunity. If anyone else come out to say, yes, I voted this,